Oh, hello. In today's episode of Kill Team Shower Thoughts, I want to talk to you about the two tribes of Kill Team, and maybe you can work out which tribe you belong to. So, it feels to me, and this is coming as a content creator, right? As somebody who reads a lot of what people are saying in comments, in discords, and kind of has their finger somewhat on the pulse of what people think about Kill Team. It feels a lot like Kill Team is a game with two very distinct fan bases that don't get along. Some folks really like what I would call the small 40k. They really want Kill Team to remain as, in fairness, it was originally conceived. You know, two squads from 40k taken onto a battlefield, and you play a skirmish game with those two units, and then you can take those two squads to a big 40k army of your choice, and they would not look incongruous. They'd just look like any of the other units in that army. And to be totally fair to this view, that is what Kill Team originally was conceived as. Okay, because Kill Team started out life as an expansion in the back of the 40k rulebook for a long time, so it was necessarily using the same models for 40k. It didn't have its own model range. Kill Team 2016, I think it was, the red and white book was the first sort of independently published version of the Kill Team rules, but again, it was just using the 40k miniatures. And Kill Team 2018, again, with the exception of the one expansion I'll talk about a bit more in a minute, towards the end of its run, Kill Team 2018 again was very much small 40k. It was very much the expectation was these are units and models from 40k squads, and we're then pushing them into Kill Team to zoom in on that battlefield. And you can also talk about the spin-off game Shadow War Armageddon, which was a fairly brief thing, but it was basically again, it was like Necromunda, but for 40k squads, right? So there's obviously a market out there for people that want small 40k. On the other side of the coin, you've got the people that really love it when Kill Team explores the weird little niche things that don't fit in a battlefield, but are in the lore and the background of Warhammer 40,000. Now, these people are, I would typify these kind of things as people that love Necromunda, right? That's a game all about exploring the kind of brutal civilian life in the 41st millennium. You've got Inquisitor, and if you look at the people online now who are doing the sort of not officially supported, the spiritual successor to Inquisitor, the Inquisitor 28 guys, where it's all about Inquisitors and their war bands, or like Cardinals and their war bands, or like tech priests and their war bands and that kind of higher level. So it's distinct from Necromunda because it's not civilians, but it's like the sort of the war and politics of these kind of high powered, high status individuals and their collections of hangers on, right? And then you've also got the Kill Team Rogue Trader expansion that came out towards the end of Kill Team 28, which was really, it was Kill Team first dipping its toe into this idea of what can we do with Kill Team if we make our own miniatures that are just for Kill Team. What can we do if we're allowed to do stuff that isn't just a repackaged? Because while Kill Team 2018 did have its own releases, like not really. The only model releases you got before the Rogue Trader boxes were 40k squads, but then cast in a weird color of plastic. Okay, and it wasn't until Rogue Trader, which was near the end of Kill Team 18's run, that they really started to explore what Kill Team could look like if it got its own model releases. And the fascinating thing with Rogue Trader is that Kill Team Rogue Trader was very much the corporate officially sanctioned Games Workshop way of thinking about how they could get back some of these Inquisitor 28 people who buy and convert Games Workshop miniatures, right? Because Kill Team Rogue Trader, and this is something I met John Blanche once, and it was at a Games Workshop event where he was talking specifically about Kill Team Rogue Trader because he had a more involved participation in that than he had typically had in products for many, many years. It is there are John Blanch's fingerprints all over that box. It's very much his style of thing. One of the reasons I'm making this video is because I see a lot of grumpiness from both of these groups whenever there's a release that is not for their group, right? I see a lot of people whenever they release something that's niche and bring something from the background that wouldn't work in the big 40k tabletop. People go, "Oh no, I don't want this. I don't want to play random guys with hats, right? I want to play a space marine or an orc or a tyrannid. I want to play 40k. I like the 40k, the big front and center 40k stuff. I want that, but skirmish, right?" And then you see the complaint from other people when they release something that's very clearly a 40k unit, and they go, "This is just a 40k release, right? This is just because they needed to do, this is just because they needed to release new striking scorpions. It isn't a kill team. Why aren't we getting stuff that's really like chewily and mechanically kill team? Why are we just getting 40k releases smuggled in and reboxed?" And you see this grumpy, and it's one of those things that you never see because no one ever goes online, do they, and comments on a video, or rarely to post, "Yes, I like this. This is great. This is what I'm going to buy." This is why I always ask, "Oh, are you going to buy this kill?" Whenever I talk about an upcoming kill team product, because I'm trying to elicit those comments that you so rarely see. And my community is quite good for it. People go, "Yeah, I like this," right? But often you see the complaints, and you see the complaints from both sides. And I think often, if you are what I'm hoping is some of the people watching this video will identify with one or the other of these groups of these two tribes that I'm describing, and at least they're going to pause and go, "Okay, the other tribe exists, and they do deserve nice things from time to time, and maybe we can have a little less moaning when they release something that's not what you think it should be." Now, Games Workshop obviously wants to appeal to both of these people, right? It knows that there are people out there that love Warhammer 40,000 but want to play skirmish 40k, right? But it can also see all those people who are playing like Inquisitor 28 that it wants them to come into its ecosystem and buy products as well, right? Rather than just sitting and doing their own little third-party thing without the company's money extracting sort of mechadendrites going into wallets and taking cash. So it's one of these things where Games Workshop wants all people that love all the games on this slide. They want them buying Kill Team stuff, right? Never mind the fact that Necromunda is another game that they still make. We know that the Warhammer Games Workshop is very dysfunctional, and that SDS and the main studio are competitors, and SDS and the main studio would quite like to take all of SDS's customers if it could, right? That we know that's Games Workshop's unique dysfunctional way of working. So what I thought would be fun is I'm going to go through and just look at all the kill teams that we have currently. I've not included the new Raveners or Servitors, although they would both fit more or less on this slide here if I'd included them. And I'm going to categorize the teams into the two tribes. So first we have the teams on here. You can see most of them. We got the Vespid, the Harlequins, the Thousand Sons, the Wrecker Crew, the Wormblade, the Phobos, the Plague Marines, the Ratlings, the Scouts, the Night Lords, the Necrons, the Hunter Clade, the Kazakin, the Commandos, the Legionaries, the Mandrakes, the Pathfinders, the Space Marines, the Blades of Cain, the Chaos Cult, the Krieg, the Kroot, Hand of the Archon, and the Hearthkin Salvagers. This is the biggest grouping. This is most of the teams on Kill Team, okay? These are all teams which are either existing miniatures from 40k, right? In some cases, like Chaos Cult, they're just literally existing miniatures from 40k, right? And in other examples, they were existing miniatures from 40k with an upgrade sprue, as in Hand of the Archon, or they're a brand new kit, but that brand new kit is a direct replacement for something that was already in 40k, like the Ratlings, or the Kazakin, or the Commandos, or the Vespid, or the Kroot. Like, these are brand new, but they're not brand new ideas, right? They're just new versions of a new kit. So I think these are here to appeal to people who like the main big armies of 40k, who want to be playing 40k, but they want to be playing a small-scale alternating activation skirmish game. These are the teams that are aimed at you. Now, Krieg are really interesting. So Krieg, if I'd made this video about a year ago, Krieg might have been on another slide and been, oh, this is a cool, weird thing. But now they've launched the whole new Imperial Guard army where it's all Krieg. So Krieg now fit on here as being they're just a 40k squad, okay? But it's worth mentioning that when they were first launched, they were novel and interesting, okay? And it could be that some of the things on the slide when we get to the things that are weird and novel and interesting, they may end up being entire armies and new things in their own right eventually, and then we would move them onto here. But for now, these are all the things that I would characterize as small 40k. Now, these four are weird, okay? So the four things I've got here, I've got the novitiates, right? The Sisters Novitiates, the Harnkin Jaegers, the Tempestus Aquilons, and the new Cornfellow, the Goremongers, that's their name. Now, I wasn't sure which slide to put these on, and eventually I settled on pulling them out, presenting them on their own slide. Because to talk about these briefly, these four kill teams are, to my mind, these are a unique group. These are four squads which are brand new, right? So when these were released, they are new lore. Okay, so they are brand new. They're not a rework of an existing 40k squad. They are brand new miniatures, new lore. But I've pulled them out and put them separately because for all of their brand new miniatures and new lore, hopefully you agree with me, each of these four squads, if these came out as a 40k squad, as part of here's a new codex, here's your new unit to go with your new codex, and maybe a character as well, but whatever, here's a new unit, and here's your codex. Think about the Thousand Suns release that we've just seen. They're getting like some robots and a codex. You could easily have seen if we'd gone a different direction. If they wanted that same kind of minor update for the guard, for the sisters, for the word bearer, the world eaters, or for the Votan, you could easily see a world. I think. Tell me in the comments if you agree. Where it would be like, here's your codex, and here's a cool new squad. They're cool. They're flying stormtroopers. What's not to like, right? So for all of these were new, I think they more properly belong on the previous slide. That is to say, they are small 40k in my mind. But for some people who are firmly in team small 40k, these are not what they would want, because what they want is to be able to zoom in and play that pre-existing iconic stuff that's embedded in the IP. And this is not that. This is new IP. Okay, so I get that actually, in some ways, I feel like these might be the four least satisfactory teams in terms of IP. These might be the four least satisfactory teams for anyone in the kill team landscape, which seems harsh. And if you're a big enjoyer of one of these four teams, narratively, I don't care about the rules for the minute, let me know. But I feel like these are teams that are not different enough from their main 40k faction and the usual units that they get, right? But neither do they enable that fantasy of getting one of the iconic units that we've put onto the tabletop and playing a skirmish game. I've said it before, I would prefer the Sisters team was a Battle Sisters squad, right? I thought that would be more interesting than the Novitiates. Because they're not different enough to be truly interesting and weird and breaking new ground. But then neither are they the iconic thing. But I can also see that with for two of these, for the World Eaters and the Votan, they were desperate for new kits. So those two 40k armies were desperate for new kits. So this was a good vehicle for that. Sisters and Guard, really fulsome range. So not quite the same thing there, right? So then that brings us on to the weirdos, right? We got, I would say 5 Imperial weirdos, 3 Chaos weirdos, and 2 Xenos weirdos. So our Imperial weirdos, we got the Ecclesiarchy team, the Adeptus Arbites, the Navy Breachers, the Euclidean Star Striders, and the Inquisition. Okay. For the Chaos weirdos, we've got the Gellerpox Infected, we've got the Beastmen, and we've got the Blooded, right? And for the Xenos weirdos, we've got the Eldar Corsairs and also the Brood Brothers. Now, you might want to challenge me on some of these. You might want to say, but Phil, you know that missionaries and preachers have been in the Sisters' Army since forever, and the Ecclesiarchy Battle Conclave used to be a unit in the Sisters of Battle White Dwarf Codex. I believe me, I know, and I know that Inquisitional war bands were a thing going back to Demon Hunters and Witch Hunters as well. Games Workshop has explored some of these ideas before, but I think you'll agree with me, they were always poor fits for 40k, right? They were always really things that I found really cool and wanted to buy miniatures of, but they were always really poor fits for the tabletop war game, right? Anybody that's actually tried to play, as I have, and I know some of the people who are in this community have as well, anyone that's actually tried to play with the inquisitorial war bands that used to exist in the Demon Hunters book and the Witch Hunters book in Big 40k knows that there was really annoying, actually. It's really annoying in 40k, which is a squad-based game, to have a squad that's made up of individuals all with different weird weapons. Really frustrating, right? And for Chaos, you might say, well, Traitor Guard have been a thing for a long time in the background, and there have been various rules here and there for Traitor Guard, and I kind of agree. But also, no, I think, again, they don't really fit the general theme of the Chaos Space Marines army as we see it today, right? They already have their cultists. They're very well served for cultists. I think these belong here. They are a weird little niche exploration. And the same with Brood Brothers. People are going to tell me, oh, Brood Brothers have been around for ages. Like, yeah, they have. But I think in the realm, especially in the, if you look at the current GCL Occult book, they're very much well, if you take this one particular battalion, you can take Brood Brothers, and everyone goes, yeah, I would never bother, though, right? And there are some people out there that have bought loads of guard stuff and themed up their Brood Brothers army, but they're very much a weird little niche. And even though they have been explored and you can use them in 40k, I think they also don't. They are like a weird little sub-factiony niche for the GCL Occult theme. And I think it's with all of these, I think the real acid test is I think it's coherent to say that you could be a fan of these things and not necessarily a fan of the main 40k faction that they're vaguely connected to. And likewise, you could be a fan of the 40k faction and not really like these guys, right? Now, I have a weird relationship with the teams on this page. Model-wise and lore-wise, these are the most interesting to me. Intellectually and thematically, I am of the we need more weirdos in Kill Team tribe. If for no other reason to readdress the balance, and because these are the teams that make me sit up and go, oh, these are interesting guys, though. Sadly, right, these are all teams, if you look at them, that are quite challenging to play. Because the thing, and this is the other dynamic to it, these are all representing something in the lore that's a bit weird and a bit less elite and a bit less suited to fighting and has to make a lot of its mileage through shenanigans, and that therefore tends to make them quite difficult to play, right? Now, it's not the worst spot, actually. I think the worst spot in Kill Team at the moment is if you are a non-elite team on this page, so if you're the Kazakin, you're in a real rough spot because thematically and lore-wise, you shouldn't have a whole pile of shenanigans. You should just be like this kind of fairly solid, fairly elite team of human soldiers. But because you're not a capital E elite squad, you kind of have difficulty. Whereas at least all of these have, they can have pages and pages. Of course, the Rogue Trader has an off-board, battleship that helps them out, right? Of course, the Brood Brothers just have this giant Gene Stealer Patriarch running around, right? Of course, the Beastmen, I forget what they're called. have a weird special rule where they don't die when they die, right? So like these are the teams where the core fluff of what they are, the core fiction of what they are, um, means that they're not impressive, right? So you look at Beastmen, they should just die in droves, right? If you look at like Adeptus Arbites, like they're pretty nails when they're beaten up hive gangers and kids, right? But they're not actually supposed to be able to go toe to toe with a Chaos Space Marine. So they need like special extra little novelty bits. And that unfortunately makes all these teams quite difficult to play, even though I think they're really cool. And I think a game that was more limited in scope, that was focused, and it's not what Kill Team is, and I'm not saying that the people that want to be small 40k are wrong and they should leave, because I play a lot of those small 40k teams as well, because I'm slightly better at them, I have more fun. But I think a skirmish game that was officially supported by Games Workshop, that limited itself in scope to this sort of power level of these sort of teams, that'd be a super interesting game that I would be all over, right? We're not going to get that because, like I say, Games Workshop's not going to make a niche product for all the little tiny niches, and they want to get all the people that love this and all the people that want small skirmish 40k all buying the same product line. But I do think there's a slight issue, isn't there, with Kill Team, where thematically, if my Ecclesiarchy Warband or my Adeptus Arbites or my Navy Breachers or my Rogue Trader Entourage or my Inquisitor's various hangers-on, if any of those in the lore meet 6 Chaos Legionaries, they should all die. Right? Like that's what should happen according to the books. Right? But that's a problem the Games Workshop have always had. So, final thoughts. First of all, do you agree with my analysis? Do you think that these two tribes exist, or am I creating a sort of false dichotomy, making a video about something that isn't real, and I should stop analyzing? If you really want me to stop analyzing stuff, I kind of think you've subscribed to the wrong channel, in fairness. What do you think of my categorization of teams in the tribes? So, perhaps you are sitting there thinking, oh, well, I agree with your general premise, Phil. I think there are these two groups. But I would definitely have put like novitiates in the weirdos box, and I would definitely have put Krieg in the weirdos box, and I would definitely have put Brood Brothers in the small 40k box. Like there's definitely room for arguing for some of those kind of things, right? Which tribe do you identify with the most? Are you more excited? Are you more excited about the small 40k stuff or the weirdo stuff? I want to know. And especially if you're someone that finds the releases for the other tribe particularly tiresome, right? If you're a fan of 40k weirdos and do you find a thing that's just hi, I'm a squad for 40k? Do you find that particularly tiresome? And tell us about that. Let's explore it a little bit. I'm trying to like if we try and examine why people are a bit prone to negative thinking around this kind of thing, we can kind of get to a situation where everybody admits that the other person is also a human entitled to get things that they prefer sometimes, right? And it's the same if you're on the other side. If you really like the weirdos and you get kind of, oh no, really, just a 40k squad but in a kill team box, like why do you find it particularly tiresome? Like, let's see if we can get some genuine discourse about that. It will be really interesting. Keep it civil, yeah. Do subscribe, comment, like, etc. Consider joining the Discord if that's something you'd like to do. We take the discussion further there as well. And I want to say a big thanks to all my members, people that financially support me every single month. Thank you so much. You've given me the gift of having to do a tax return this year. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I will hopefully see you again tomorrow with something else. Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye. Goodbye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.